everybody, and welcome to our Birds Around the World. We are actually here on our very last day learning about birds, which I'm a little bit sad about. Of course, I've enjoyed learning about all the creatures, but birds are definitely one of my favorites. It's been a lot of fun. So we started with one of my favorite birds, the peacock, that lives in India on the continent of Asia. We're actually going to end with another one of my favorite birds, the hummingbird. And we're visiting South America today. And did you know that actually most of the world's hummingbirds live on South America? We actually only have 17 that live in the United States. Most are in Mexico, Central America, or South America. Most are actually in South America. And there's almost 400 different kinds of hummingbirds. So I'm really excited to learn about the hummingbirds. But before we dig into our hummingbirds, Alexis, let's see if you can remember. Can you remember the 6 characteristics of birds? Without looking.
Birds lay eggs. All birds have feathers and wings. All birds have 2 legs. All birds are warm-blooded. All birds breathe with lungs. All birds have bills or beaks.
Good job.
And all birds.
I think you said them all, didn't you? Yeah, you said that one already.
But
Good.
all birds do not fly.
That's right. All birds do not fly. And actually, throughout our study, we actually learned about quite a few birds that don't fly. In your My Animal Notebook, we were just kind of going over the bird characteristics there. If you flip it over on page number 100, it gives you just a couple fun facts about birds. Many of these we've actually gone over, but we just kind of wanted to review those. Can you read us our fun facts?
The largest bird is the ostrich. The smallest bird is the bee hummingbird.
Which we're going to learn today. It's of Cuba, which is on a little island.
It is so small, it's commonly mistaken for an insect.
And look, doesn't it kind of look like an insect? So here's a picture of the bee hummingbird, the world's smallest bird, the smallest hummingbird. It's only about 2 inches or less. It actually weighs 0.09 ounces, which is 2.8 grams.
That thing could
Isn't that
probably
crazy?
walk on water.
But it does kind of look like a bug. I can see why it's mistaken for a bug. So we have had a lot of fun learning about our different birds. We're actually going to go to page number 47 in your animal notebook, and we're going to turn that birds of South America. Or you could write South American birds. That's 2 different ways that you could write it. And as you're writing that, I'm going to actually dig right into one of our hummingbird books. We learned a lot of fun things about the hummingbird. Did you know that a hummingbird is a pollinator? Does anybody know what a pollinator is? What do you think, Alexis? Could you tell everybody what a pollinator is?
A pollinator is something that helps flowers and other plants grow.
Right, it even has the word pollen in it because it takes the pollen from one flower to the next because it drinks the nectar. That's its number 1 source of food is nectar. Now, it will eat a few bugs along the way. So if there's a spider or a little ant or a bug inside the flower while it's drinking nectar, it will eat that bug as well. This one is the Costa's hummingbird there. That's one in South America. The hummingbirds flit around the flowers. They hover in the air. Their wings make a humming sound. This is where their name came from. Alexis has a joke about hummingbirds. Can you share your joke?
Why do hummingbirds hum? Because they don't know the words.
Isn't that cute? Once you have your birds of South America written, draw a line right in the middle of your paper. We're going to do hummingbirds on top and then flamingos on the bottom, which is another fun bird. So I'm going to draw a line right through the center of your page. At the top, write hummingbirds, which is spelled H-U-M-M, so hum, and then ing, I-N-G, and birds, B-I-R-D-S. Hummingbirds.
Does anybody know why hummingbirds hum actually?
Oh, this is a good one, yes.
It's because their wings flap like, what was it, like 65 times per second?
Mm-hmm. Isn't that crazy? So yeah, anywhere from 65 and it can go up to 200 flaps for 1 second. Now 1 second is like
1,000.
Right, it's just a 1,000. That's 1 second. And they'll actually flap, between 65 and 200 times in that 1 second. So that's why it kind of sounds like a hum. And if you've ever had a hummingbird zoom past you, you can really hear that buzz and that hum. A couple hummingbirds that do tweet and make a singing sound, but most don't. And here's about the pollinators. So this is the broad-billed hummingbird. It looks very much like the ruby-throated hummingbird, doesn't it? Hummingbirds are pollinators. Pollinators help plants to grow seeds and fruit. Oh, and here's the plant sprouting. So the plant sprouts from a seed. The seed grows and matures and becomes a flower. Well, that flower needs to be pollinated to make new seeds and fruit. How does this happen? Well, it depends on the pollen. But that's a great fact to write down too, is that the hummingbirds are pollinators. Pollen is actually that powder that's found in flowers. Nectar is found deep inside flowers too. And the nectar is so sweet. The hummingbirds love that sweet nectar. Well, the hummingbird will fly from flower to flower, and the pollen falls off from one flower to next. That is called pollination. Oh, and this is the Allen's hummingbird. So the Allen's hummingbird is actually one hummingbird that will stay in North America year round. There are only 2 hummingbirds actually that stay in North America year round, and that is the Allen's hummingbird
And the Anna's hummingbird.
and the Anna's hummingbird. Those are the only 2. There's only one hummingbird that's actually found east of the Mississippi, like where we live in Michigan. We have some viewers from Maryland. We have some viewers in Ohio and some in Virginia. So all our area where we live, there's only the
Ruby-throated hummingbird.
That's right, the ruby-throated hummingbird. The ruby-throated will actually fly down to Mexico for the winter time. Hummingbirds use their beaks to drink nectar. Their beak is long and narrow. Their tongue is so long too. They use it like a straw. Well, the hummingbird is the smallest bird in the world, with that bee hummingbird be the smallest hummingbird. Hummingbirds are the only bird that can fly backwards. So a lot of wildflowers actually depend on the hummingbirds for pollination. Here's a really pretty picture of the Anna's hummingbird. Again, this is one that lives year-round in North America. And flowers actually need hummingbirds to grow. There are some flowers that are only pollinated by hummingbirds. That's how important they are to our ecosystem. A hummingbird's feathers shine in the sun as it flies. The bird hovers in front of a purple flower. Its long beak reaches between the petals. The bird sips the flower's nectar. And that would be a fact to write down, is that hummingbirds drink nectar. They're pollinators. They drink nectar. They have a very long tongue that's like a straw. So those are all some good facts you could write down about your hummingbirds. This one's a kind of a cute picture here. Look, the hummingbird actually has pollen stuck on its beak. So that one you can really see the pollen. Isn't that cute? And then here's a good picture of the pollination with the hummingbird here. Can you see that okay, Alexis? I know it's probably hard for you to see back there, isn't it? So the hummingbird sips the nectar of one flower and then flies to the next, sips the nectar of the next flower. Well, while it's on the first flower, it's going to get some of that pollen on its beak like we just saw. And then it takes the pollen over to this flower. And now this flower will get the pollen from this flower. And that's how flowers are pollinated and how they can continue to grow. Here's a beautiful picture of bee balm. We have some bee balm growing in our garden, and hummingbirds love bee balm. Even though it's called bee balm, the bumblebees like it too.
Did you know that if you plant red flowers, it can be any kind of red flowers, but you may attract some hummingbirds because you know why they like red flowers? It's because they're the sweetest.
Oh, that's a good fact. That's right. We learned that earlier, didn't we? That the red flowers are the sweetest. So I was telling Alexis, we need to make sure we plant some extra red flowers. And did you know too? They can sometimes visit hundreds of flowers in just one day.
Look at its tongue.
I know. So this is a great picture for you to see how long that hummingbird tongue is.
And it's probably like as long as its whole body.
Well, you know what? It's so long. Like, look at it. Do you think, can that fit back in its beak?
Probably not.
No, it can't. So the hummingbird's tongue is so long that it actually, when it gets back in its beak, it'll go back into the beak and it actually curls up far beyond the beak and kind of rolls up into their head around their eye even. Isn't that kind of weird? But that's kind of cool too. It's kind of one of those weird kind of cool facts. Here's a great picture of a hummingbird perching. And we learned some interesting facts today that I didn't realize, and I guess I kind of knew it, but I just never really thought about it, that a hummingbird's feet, they're so delicate and they're so curled that they can't actually walk on the ground. The only way they can rest is if they perch on a branch or a that's why a hummingbird feeder will have like maybe a perching spot. And most bird feeders have a perching spot for the birds. But a hummingbird is one that actually cannot put its feet flat and it can't even walk on the ground. It has to perch somewhere.
Look at this one.
Speaking of flying, do you remember how fast they can fly?
Like 65 miles per hour.
That's like highway speed. So think about when you're driving on the highway, and you know, our highway is 70 miles an hour. Some highways are 65 and some are 75, or some even go down to 55, but it's 65 miles an hour. That's fast. That hummingbird can fly that fast. And that's why, like, when you maybe seen a hummingbird near you, you almost like feel it going near you, even though it's really small, because it goes so fast. And when they fly, so they do their wings like a number 8. So see if you can try that. It's kind of awkward feeling, isn't it? But they have really special arms that it just has one short shoulder bone here, and like the shoulder bone is connected to one short upper arm bone.
They should do 7s.
And really long, yes, and really long fingers. So try your 8s, and that's how the hummingbird hovers all around. They actually eat a lot. Now, we've heard a lot of different facts in books. Some say 8 times an hour, others said 15 times an hour. But no matter how you slice it, hummingbirds have to eat a lot. Here's a life cycle of a hummingbird. Now, it was really cool. Alexis, do you remember some of the things they used to build their nest? Here's their nest.
They use spider webs to hold it together. They use lichen, caterpillars, webs.
They like to use the cottony seeds and stuff like that. They'll use feathers. But one of the more significant things, like you said, is the spider's web that they use. And you can even see in that nest there, the little hummingbird nest, you can see the spider webs. And how big are these hummingbird nests?
Like the size of a quarter.
Right, so actually, yeah, they're about like the size, well, between like the size of like the opening could be as small as a quarter, or it could be about the size of like a golf ball, I think they were saying. But then the eggs themselves are the size of jelly beans. They're so little. And the mama will only lay like 1 or 2 eggs. 2 is the most common, and sometimes 1. The chick is only in there for about 8 days, and then it's ready to fly. The babies are in the nest, then the mama will feed them nectar. She just gets nectar from nearby flowers, like she won't go too far away. She eats nectar from the nearby flowers, and then she feeds her baby. Now, a lot of hummingbirds live in Costa Rica. This is one of them as well. Costa Rica, although a lot live in South America, specifically in Costa Rica, because they like those warm temperatures. So most of the hummingbirds will live right around the equator. Now, some do migrate, like we were talking about, but the Anna's hummingbird that we've talked about, she does not migrate. She actually stays in the west part of the United States. And here's the ruby-throated hummingbird. This is the one that you will see in Michigan and all over the East Coast and even down into Florida. But this is the only hummingbird that you'll see east of the Mississippi. Now, there is one that goes to Alaska even. That's the rufous hummingbird. That one will actually be in Alaska too. So you can see there are some that are in North America. But did you know, actually, even though they like the warmth in the south of the equator, there aren't any in Africa or Asia or Australia. They're all in the Americas, specifically in South America. I thought that was kind of a cool fact, because I would have thought that they'd all be like in all the warm places, right? So let's move on to our flamingos. So now flamingos, they don't just live in South America, but most of them live in South America. One thing I really like about Melissa Gish, and I know we've mentioned her before, I love how she has this map. Whatever creature you're discussing, she'll show you where they live in the world. So I'm going to get a little closer to show you.
Are super creepy.
Well, that's only the lesser flamingo. Yeah, because we learned something about the lesser flamingo. So here's the map here. There are actually 6 kinds of flamingos. Only 2 live in Africa, which is the greater flamingo and the lesser flamingo. And in fact, Disney has a really good documentary about the lesser flamingo. We have just one here in North America called the American flamingo. But as you can see, it's not really in a lot of North America. It's mainly just in Florida and a few of the islands around here. And then it's also in Central and just the north part of South America. We also have the Andean flamingo in South America. And we have the Chilean flamingo here in South America. And then this James flamingo. They're also called the punu. They're from in Peru as well. There are 6 kinds of flamingos. So if you want to write, there are 6 kinds of flamingos, and that 4 of those live in South America. So 4 of the 6 kinds of flamingos live in South America. I'm gonna start with this one by Kate Riggs. At first, when I first saw it, I thought it was a Melissa Gish book because it reminded me of her beautiful photography. But let me show you these pictures. Look how beautiful that is. Now, the cool thing is flamingos really do come in a lot of different colors. And so it's really cool to see just the different shades of pink that they can be in. Look how pretty those feathers are, huh? These are the lesser flamingos that are in Africa. These are the kind that actually breed in the super, super salty water that most creatures can't live in. So that's how they're protected.
They even make nests out of salt.
And isn't that crazy? Their actual nest is made out of salt even. That's how much they can handle the salt. But most of them, like I said, are in South America. Well, these are also the lesser flamingos here. So flamingos are colorful birds. They live in Africa and the Americas, especially South America. A lot of flamingos will actually live near what they call soda lakes, which is like a really salty lake. So here's more of those lesser flamingos that are from Africa. Flamingos have long legs and long necks, and their feathers are waterproof. Andean flamingos have a pale pink body, but they have yellow legs. But most flamingos have pink or orange legs. So they're all just a little bit different. You can kind of see the difference here. So this is a greater flamingo versus the lesser flamingo. Look how much bigger the greater flamingo is. Isn't that big? So you can write that 4 of the 6 flamingos live in South America. That's a great fact too. Flamingos do need a running start before they fly. Here's kind of a cute picture of them all putting their heads in the water. Why do you think their heads are in the water? Well, it's because they're ready to eat. Do you know what flamingos eat?
Fish.
Well, actually, the 2 main things they eat are shrimp and algae. And that's what gives them their pink color, right? The shrimp they eat gives them that pink color. And then there are carotenoids, a vitamin that's in the algae that they eat. And that also gives them that pink color. So think of carrots. Carrots have beta carotene and they're orange. The babies are called chicks. Here's some flocks. So look at all of these flamingos. So flamingos are not a solitary bird. They like to be in flocks and they stay in flocks. And that's actually males, females, and the chicks. They all like to stay together. Flocks are also called colonies. Here's a nice picture of a flamingo there. Look at that, how interesting their crooked beak is. Interesting. This is the American flamingo. Oh, here's more of the lesser flamingos as well. Pictures are just so beautiful. I really recommend that everyone, pick a subject, pick a creature that you'd like to learn more about, and go get like between 5 and 10 books from the library. And it's amazing how in each book you'll learn something new. In fact, we just did a study on Michigan. We checked out about 16 books from the library, and yet every single one had something new to learn. So I definitely urge you to do that. The flamingo is also the world's longest living animal. Isn't that interesting? There's some 80-year-old flamingos. Flamingos are one of the most popular birds on Earth. They like to live near the equator where it's hot and wet. You'll also see them in zoos all around the world. In the wild, the flamingos can live for about 20 to 30 years, maybe 40. That's pretty long. Flamingos can only live long if they have enough food and water. And of course, if they stay away from predators. Flamingos are actually great swimmers and great flyers. This actually helps their young survive. They have a lot of ways to stay warm in the cold. There's safety in numbers. The best way flamingos keep safe is by sticking together in groups called flocks or colonies. Here's the greater flamingo. That's the longest living flamingo. The greater flamingo tends to be about 5 feet tall. And the one that lived the longest was actually in a zoo in Australia. So here's a Chile flamingo. This one does live in South America. It was in a zoo actually in Australia, and where it lived, and it turned 75 years old. Isn't that crazy to think? Because birds don't usually live quite that long. Parrots do though. Parrots live a long time. Here's a great picture of a flamingo egg. Now it's dirty. It's not that it's brown speckled. Flamingo eggs are usually actually white, even though the birds are pink. Their eggs are white, and this one just has a lot of mud on it.
These big birds are flamingos. Flamingos are water birds. Lesser flamingos such as these can be found in Africa's lakes. Greater flamingos live in Africa too. They are the biggest kind of flamingo. A flamingo can measure up to 65 inches from wing to the tip of wing.
Yep, so wingtip to wingtip. So that's like if they stretch out their wings, that could be 65 inches. That's almost 6 feet.
Flamingos have long necks. They have big bills. Flamingos use their bills to suck small animals out of the water.
Like shrimp, right? They love to eat the shrimp.
Flamingos live in big flocks. A flock can be as many as 1 million birds.
That's a lot of flamingos.
Flamingos pick mates with which to have babies. The females lay eggs in salt nests.
Well, some do, yeah. They don't all make salt nests, just the lesser
Flamingo
flamingos.
chicks break out of these eggs. The chicks are white or gray.
And speaking of flamingo eggs and chicks, they will generally lay one egg, kind of like the penguins. And here we go. There's one little flamingo baby with her mama.
Both flamingo mothers have feathers.
Mothers and fathers.
Mothers and fathers feed and look after their chicks.
That's right. So with the hummingbird, the father actually has nothing to do with the babies. Once the mommy actually builds the nest, the mommy will lay the eggs. She hatches the eggs. She takes care of the babies. The dad's nowhere to be found. Whereas with flamingos, they actually stick together the whole time, just like the penguins do. And they will help each other out. We just have one more. So we'll get a few more facts about the flamingos. Squish! Flamingos stamp their feet in the muddy water. They stir up tiny plants and animals to eat. Their food turns the flamingo feathers pink. What is their food?
Shrimp and algae.
That's right. So the shrimp and the algae, that's where they get their pink color from the shrimp. And then the algae has the keratin in it. There are 6 kinds of flamingos. And remember, 4 of those different kinds actually live in South America. Flamingos have very long legs and necks. The adults can grow up to 5 feet tall, but that's more of the greater flamingo, not all of them. Flamingos weigh just as much as a newborn baby. So it's interesting, even though they're so tall, they're very lightweight because think about it. They fly, don't they? So like an ostrich is a large bird and it weighs, could be like 250 to 300 pounds. And so it can't fly. So these guys, they weigh only like a newborn baby. So maybe about 10 pounds, 10 pounds. And then some newborn babies are even smaller, but they average only about 10 pounds because they do need to fly. Oh, good to have you, Sarah. We're so glad you're joining us again. We just finished up our hummingbirds and now we're going to learn a little more about flamingos, some birds of South America. So here are some flamingos putting their heads into the water to eat their food. And they have a special curved beak. Why do you think that curved beak would be helpful?
So they can get food?
That's right. So the thing about the curved beak helps them kind of maybe crack the shrimp shells. It can also help them kind of scoop up the algae that's in the water. A lot of flamingo flocks will have at least 1,000 birds. And we learned up to even 1,000,000. Here's one on a mud nest here.
A mud nest.
Yeah, that's the little mud nest. So the flamingo nests with the colony. Both parents actually work on building the nest together. The nests themselves are actually 12 inches high. So that's like your school ruler. That's how tall the flamingo nest is. And they'll lay just one egg. Well, and the parents even take turns sitting on the nest. In 27 to 31 days, the little gray or white chick hatches. And then the adults feed the chick red milk that's made in their mouth. They have a little crop inside their throat. I know it's kind of gross, but they have this red milk inside their body that's how they actually feed.
They put red dye in it or something?
Yeah, I mean, it does. It really kind of looks like blood when you see them feeding the babies. It is kind of gross.
Maybe it is blood.
No, it's not. Well, it takes 3 years for the baby's feathers to turn pink. So that's a good fact to write down. That it'll take 3 years for a flamingo's feathers to turn pink. And then if it's a healthy flamingo, they'll keep their pink feathers for life. But if it starts to like not have as much keratin, then the color will start to fade a little bit. So let's do some drawing of our flamingo and our hummingbird. Got a couple fun ones to do. Get our camera flipped around. There we go. So this is our picture we're going to use. Great little diagram of a flamingo. So it has that distinct, almost like an S shape, doesn't it? It has that curved beak that it's deep and it's a large, so it can scoop up food and water. So we talked about that. It's a curved beak to help them. Their neck here, like we said, is kind of long S-shaped neck. It has 19 bones that make it easy to bend and twist in all directions. There's all those beautiful pink feathers. That's what flamingos are famous for, is their beautiful pink waterproof feathers, of course. They have really long, thin legs. They may be yellow, orange, or pink, depending on the species. There's their little webbed feet. That makes it easier for them to paddle in the water. So they're a very unique bird in that they'll paddle in the water, they'll fly, they wade. They don't often get out of the water unless they're flying. They will not generally walk on land. I'm gonna do my flamingo, I think, kind of over here. And then I'm gonna do my cute little hummingbird up here by a flower. So we're gonna start with the head and that distinct S shape. So here's the flamingo head. And here's that distinct S shape that everyone recognizes as typical flamingo. And don't forget they've got that really curved beak. So let's make sure we make a really curved beak. And their eye is very close to the base of their beak. Let's see. And then we're gonna do the other side of their neck here. And the swan also has, a lot of the wading water birds have the S-shaped neck as well. And then we're gonna draw their feathers. They've got fairly large wings. Why do you think they have such big wings?
So they can fly.
I should have drawn my flamingo up more, because you know what? You're not gonna be able to see its long legs. Yep, see, I should have drawn my flamingo up a little more. That's a lesson learned on yours, right? You can draw yours up a little higher. So my poor little flamingo is gonna be, have his little legs cut off a little bit here. But they do have very skinny legs. Remember, the ostrich, who doesn't fly, has long legs, but they're actually very strong legs. So I'm sorry, little flamingo, that I chopped your little legs off. Now, depending on what kind of South American flamingo, you can color them differently. So I kind of want to show you up close the different kinds in South America. We have this, the James flamingo. As you can see, it's pink. It's got black around its eye, a black tip on its beak, and the yellow beak. We have the Chilean flamingo, which is more of a pale pink with a pale pink eye area. And again, the black tip, but a white beak. Isn't that interesting? We also have the Andean flamingo in South America. Up here a little bit. This one's more of that typical pink color that you're familiar with the flamingos. Again, a black tip on its beak and a white part, and then a blackish around the eyes. And then the American flamingo here, this is definitely your typical what you think of as a flamingo. Now this one is in North America, just in the southern part, and it is also in South America and Central America. So it's got more of that peachy color. And then if you look closely, the black beak also has a little bit of the peachy, like a coral color, as well as the white. So even this one that we're copying here, that is the American flamingo that you'll find in both South and North America. So I'm going to kind of mimic that one for mine. And I'm going to put the line up through its beak. And just the tip is darker. And then if you're coloring these as well, you can do a little bit of the pink right here on the beak. And then color, of course, your beautiful flamingo all pink. So we're going to label this flamingo. Oops. And now let's go ahead and draw our little hummingbird up in the corner. Oh, you know, we should probably label our flamingo too, shouldn't we? So let's just label a few of the distinct features. Like we had its curved beak. That was definitely significant. So let's write curved beak. That's C-U-R-V-E-D, and then beak is B-E-A-K. We're gonna write that it has a long neck. L-O-N-G is long. Neck is N-E-C-K. Let's also mention its large wings, because it needs those large wings to be able to fly. Because it is a larger bird, but can fly. So large wings. And even though I drew the poor little legs short because I ran out of room, we will label that they have long legs. And I'm even going to put long wading legs. And if you did better than me and you actually drew your flamingo so that you could see its feet as well, you could label that it has webbed feet. That would be great. I need to get a new pencil because my pencil broke there. All right, now let's do our sweet little hummingbird up here in the corner. Now, these won't be sized to scale because I'm going to draw my hummingbird just a little bit bigger. And since hummingbirds, you almost always see them getting ready to sip nectar from a flower because they are a natural pollinator, I'm actually going to draw a flower here. And they really like those trumpeter flowers as well. So I'm going to draw a couple little pieces of pollen. And I'm going to draw my hummingbird getting ready to pollinate this beautiful flower. So they do have a smaller head, of course, but then they have a very long, skinny beak. That's definitely what they're most known for, is that long, skinny beak. And again, most birds, their eyes are fairly close to their beak. They just have a little tiny body here and a cute little tail. And then their wings, I'm going to draw both their wings. This is kind of like the still shot. I'm using this hummingbird right here as my guide. Isn't that one pretty? That's a velvet purple coronet that's found in South America. Beautiful hummingbird. So their wings are a little bit of like that triangle shape. So I'm just kind of giving the edge of the wing here a little bit of that feathered texture. And in fact, when the Spanish, there's kind of a fun story about the hummingbirds that we learned this morning. When the Europeans first came to North America and they saw these beautiful birds, they called them flying jewels because they had such distinct bright colors and they were flying around. It literally looked like jewels. And they would go back and tell the other Europeans about these beautiful creatures. And they didn't even believe them. They thought that they were just making up stories about the hummingbirds. We are going to draw its curved little feet here because that's another distinct feature, that it only can perch with its little feet. I thought that was kind of cool about the flying jewels. So let's go ahead and write hummingbird up here. Humming. So there's humming and then bird. It's all one word. It's not two words. It's hummingbird is one word. We're going to mention it's a long beak, because that's definitely a distinct feature. And I'm actually going to stick its tongue out just a little bit. And then I'm going to mention long straw-like tongue. Or I'll just put straw tongue in quotes. And it looks like, but for some reason my camera keeps going blurry. Long straw tongue. I think because it wants to focus on my hand. Okay, let's try that. Sorry about that, everyone. Long straw tongue. And then let's mention these curved perching feet, because they really cannot go flat, and they cannot walk on the ground with these curved perch feet. So different than the flamingo's flat webbed feet, and such different purposes as well. And we're going to how should we label these wings? Let's say that they are let's say fast wings, because that's probably the most thing, because they are actually the fastest wings in the bird world, flapping between 80 and 200 times for 1 second. That's amazing. Fast wings. There, I think we've got all of our hummingbird features here. So we've got the hummingbird, we've got our flamingo, our birds, right? Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for the South American birds. So this is our last week in birds. Ooh. But don't worry, we've still got a few more creatures to go. So we're actually going to do amphibians and reptiles starting next week. So we're going to actually kind of do them together, because we thought, well, since a lot of people get the amphibians and reptiles confused, maybe we can go ahead and do them together. So we're going to we're actually going to stay in South America even. We're going to stay in South America, and we're going to visit the amphibians and reptiles. Well, we really hope that you enjoyed learning birds with us. And we look forward to hearing about your bird report too, if you want to share that with us. Alexa's gonna be working on her cardinal report soon, right? Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday. Bye. So there's just a few little facts about hummingbirds. Did we read both our books already? Oh no, we must not have read this book yet. Okay, no wonder. I was like, wait a minute, where'd our book go? I put it underneath the other one. I couldn't find it there.